How's it going, my fellow shiny Pokemon? Shiny Snorlax here, bringing you guys Pokemon Showdown UU fight. But before we start that, we got a team preview, and of course, no one sent me some teams, but so I decided to look them up. And I'm probably gonna hate myself for this. I never liked looking up teams. I always hated it. I want to do the hard work and do it myself, you know, get that workout nice. Alright, but other than that, let's get to the team preview. We have Empoleon with leftovers, Torrent, Roar, Scald, Stealth Rock, and Default. Planning on getting rid of Roar or something else. And we have Entei with Assault Vest, Pressure, Return, Stone Edge, Iron Head, Sacred Fire. Pretty decent set. Then we have Searby with leftovers, Natural Cure, Toxic, U-Turn, Recover, and Giga Drain. Next we have Crobat, Choice Band, Infiltrator, Super Fang, Cross Poison, Brave Bird, and U-Turn. And Doublade with Eviolite, No Guard, Shadow Sneak, Sacred Sword, Gyro Ball, and Swords Dance. And we have Hydreigon with Life Orb, Levitate, Roost, Draco Meteor, Dark Pulse, and Flash Cannon. So yeah, that's the team preview. But other than that, let's get to the battle. How's it going, my fellow shiny Pokemon? Shiny Snorlax here, bringing you guys Pokemon Showdown UU fights. Feels pretty good to be playing some UU after a while. But other than that, let's get to the battle. I lead off with my Hydreigon. Opponent leads off with this Victini. I did not expect a U-turn from the Victini, so I decided to stay in. But opponent U-turned into its Nidoqueen. And I go for a Draco Meteor and get it about to half. I go for another Draco Meteor, knowing that I'll take it out, and I get the critical hit. I don't know if the critical hit mattered or not. Opponent brings out Victini. I decide to switch out into my Entei, knowing I can take almost anything from the Victini. And opponent goes for a U-turn, and U-turns out into its Slowbro. I was a bit scared, so I decided to switch on to my Hydreigon, knowing I could take a Scald and out. And I was right. Opponent does go for a Scald, and I do take it pretty well. Opponent brings out Vaporeon. I decide to go for a Roost to heal up a bit, and I switch out into my Empoleon, originally predicting a nice type attack. But opponent goes for a Wish and switches out into its Heracross. I set up my Stealth Rocks, wanting to know what the opponent will do. And I switch on to my Doublade, originally predicting a fighting type attack, but opponent goes for a knockoff. And I decide to leave Doublade out for Death Fodder and go for a Shadow Sneak. Opponent goes for another knockoff, almost takes me out, but it's not enough, and I go for another Shadow Sneak, getting more damage off the Heracross. And the opponent takes me out with a knockoff. I bring out my Entei, and opponent switches out into its Vaporeon. I predicted a switch out, so I decided to go for a Return, not getting much damage off. But I switch out into my Empoleon, still predicting a wild type attack, but opponent goes for a Wish, and opponent switches out into its Heracross. I decide to go for a Roar, originally predicting the Victinis or something else, and opponent gets its Vaporeon healed up from the Wish, and I switch out into my Searby. Opponent goes for a Wish and switches out into its Slowbro. I predicted I predict some type of switch, so I go for a U-turn, and I bring out my Crobat, thinking this thing does not have Ice Beam. But I go for a U-turn on the Slowbro and switch out into my Hydreigon. But I was wrong. Opponent does have Ice Beam on its Slowbro, and opponent switches out into its Vaporeon. I decide to go for a Draco Meteor, leaving Hydreigon as Death Fodder. And the opponent's Vaporeon goes for a Protect. I originally predicted a Wish, so I decided to go for a Roost. But either way, I get off some heals. Opponent goes for another Protect, but fails. And I get up some more health with Roost. I decide to switch out into my Searby, and opponent goes for a Wish. Opponent switches out into its Heracross, and I decide to go for a Toxic, originally predicting the Slowbro. Opponent gets healed up from the Wish, and I decide to switch out into my Hydreigon. I don't know what I was predicting. Opponent goes for a close combat and take out my Hydreigon. and I decide to bring out my Crobat. I go for a Brave Bird and take out the Heracross, and opponent brings out a Victini. I switch out into my Cerebi, originally predicting a Volt Smash or whatever, but opponent goes for a U-turn and switches out into its Meganium. And I decide to go for a cover to see what the opponent will do, and the opponent goes for a Toxic. I switch out, not taking the fact that not thinking about if the person's going to be stalling into my Crobat, and the opponent switches out into its Slowbro. I decide to go for a U-turn on the Slowbro and switch out into my Empoleon. I don't know why my Empoleon. Oh yeah, because of Ice Beam was called. Opponent switches out into its Victini, and I decide to go for a Roar because I panicked a bit. And the opponent I switch out into my Entei, and the opponent goes for Protect but fails. I go for a Stone Edge, originally predicting the Victini, but I was wrong. The opponent goes for a Toxic, and opponent goes for Protect. I went for a Sacred Fire to try to make the opponent think that I'm going to start spamming it, so he can switch out to something like his Victini. So I went for another Stone Edge, but the opponent does not switch out and stays in. I decide to switch out into my Cerebi, predicting a Protect. I go for a Toxic on the Meganium, and the opponent goes for a Toxic on me. Opponent switches out into its Vaporeon, and I go for a U-turn just to switch out and get some damage at the same time. And I bring out my Crobat, and the opponent goes for Protect, and I go for a Brave Bird, knowing that something's going to take some massive damage if whatever comes in or out. I go for a Brave Bird and take out the Vaporeon. Opponent brings out Slowbro, and I decide to switch out and bring out my Empoleon to take any shot. Opponent goes for an Ice Beam and does not get that much damage off. I go for a Scald, hoping for the burn, and I do not get the burn. Opponent goes for a Scald. I go for another Scald, hoping for the burn, and opponent goes for Hidden Power and gets a critical hit. Opponent switches out into its Meganium, and I go for a Scald again. I switch out and bring out my Entei, and the opponent goes for an energy ball. Opponent switches out into its Slowbro. I predicted a switch of some sort, so I decided to go for a return and get some damage off. I decided to stay in. I thought the opponent will switch out, so I went for a Stone Edge, but the opponent does not, and takes me out with the Scald. I bring out my Crobat, and the opponent switches out into its Meganium, and I go for a Brave Bird and take out the Meganium. The opponent brings out its Victini and takes me out with a V-Crate. I thought I would be faster, so I didn't switch out. And I decided to bring out my Cerebi, hoping it will be faster, but I was wrong. And opponent goes for a V-Crate and takes out my Cerebi. So I brought out my Empoleon. Opponent's still faster than me and goes for a V-Crate, but does not take out my Empoleon. I go for a Skull, taking out the Victini, and opponent brings out Slowbro and gets down to about half from the Stuff Rock. I go for a Skull, get the burn, and opponent goes for a Skull itself, and I go for a Skull again, get a critical hit, and opponent goes for hidden power, and the opponent goes down from the Baron. That was a pretty decent battle, if you ask me, and a pretty decent way to start off the UU battles. I'm going to be start uploading. So yeah, like, comment, and subscribe to become a shiny Pokemon, and I'll see you next time.